How are you?
Hello, Clint Meister. How you doing?
Great to talk to you again. Are you well?
Yeah, I can hear you, sir.
Brilliant. It sounds that clear. I'm going to do it as if you sat with me, if you don't mind me doing that. You just sat opposite me.
Yeah, fine, yeah.
Right.
Cool. If you want some continuity in terms of like trying to make it real, I look amazing at the moment.
But you always do. Right, okay.
I look like a bag of shite.
Are you in London or Wales?
London, yeah. We
You're in
travelled up yesterday, so I'm going back Saturday.
Right, okay, cool. Let's get started. I might use some of that we just had there, because it sounded good, some of that. You're listening to XS Manchester. It gives me great pleasure to be joined again by an old mate of mine. I think we can say we're mates. We've known each other for several years in various capacities. One as musicians, one as me being a presenter, and him being the man on the other side of the mic. James Dean Bradfield of the Manic. You're looking well, man. How are you?
Oh, not too bad, Clint, sir. Nice to be here. No, we are mates. I'm sure we are.
Yeah,
Until we fall out.
I think we're classed as mates.
Yeah, until we fall out. Until we're kind of like, battling for top of the bill on one of those saga kind of tours we're going to do in 20 years' time or something.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be around for that, but I'll hopefully if I'm breathing, I'll be there, mate. What about Nicky then? Nicky's not with you. Is he still my mate?
I think he's doing something else. I think he's doing something in the something connected with the digital ether. Yes, he's doing digital world.
Right,
so we split up today to do our tasks.
Fantastic. Well, give him a love when you see him. So back with the new album, 13th studio album, I believe it, isn't it? Resistance is Futile. And you've got a tour as well. So you're in that great place at the moment where it's a great place for a musician where you've got the album ready to launch, the touring's about to start. I remember that as being one of the best bits of being in a band.
It's one of the best bits, but you're kind of torn between being really excited and really scared.
Yeah.
It's just that thing where I think, to be honest, I think the best bit about finishing a record is when you've just come back from mastering, it's all in the right order, and you just drive away and you listen to it for the first time, all mastered and finished. I think that's just one of the best moments. Then after that, when you get the real hard copy back in your hand with the cover on, and then after that, it gets a bit scary for me.
Do you look forward to that bit where the first day of stepping onto a tour bus to be away for weeks or months on end, away from the family? Do you look forward to that bit? Are you a bit reticent about it?
A bit reticent about it, really. You know, getting a bit soppier as I get older. Getting a bit harder to be away from the family and the dog and my TV.
In that order. You had to get that right, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, family, dog, TV. Yes. No, it's kind of, I mean, again, you're torn between still, slightly being shocked that you're doing for a job what you absolutely love. You're still doing it. Yeah. But kind of things change as you get older, definitely. So when you get on the bus, you know you're going to get a better sleep, but you know you're going to miss everybody too. Yeah,
it's something I never, towards the end, I never really enjoyed being away from family. But fortunately now I'm home every night. I'm working on the radio. I'm a DJ. That's all I'm doing at the moment. So it's all good.
Well, it's a good place to be. Everybody knows that radio is the highest art form these days.
Oh, I'm glad you said that. That's good.
Well, it is. It's a bit, radio's always constantly edging TV out of the arena these days, I think.
Yeah, it's funny because the figures still show that it's just, as a medium, it's growing and growing all the time. I think the man in the street, the listener, the consumer, always likes the idea of listening to something live with millions of other people. It's that common experience thing, isn't it? So.
It is, yeah, and also kind of like it's still one of those things where you just actually still feel as if somebody's just talking to you. So.
If you do it the right way.
If you do it the right way, if you're personable and charming like yourself, Clint, then it's that's what you get.
Thank you, James. So you're coming back to Manchester, you're doing the arena, aren't you, on the 28th of April?
Yes, we are, yeah. I mean, it's weird, we were only talking about it the other day. I think the first time we ever played Manchester, I think it was the International, I think. And then it was the Boardwalk, and then it was the University, etc. Yeah. I remember doing the Hacienda kind of before as a warm-up for when we were supporting Oasis at the Old Main Road. Yeah. And it's amazing to see how much Manchester has changed as a city, since, 1991. Well, 1990 is the first time we ever played, I think.
Yeah.
It's different for us when we come back to these cities. We see just how places have just changed beyond recognition.
This city is just blossoming into something like, it's a world-class city now. When you look at the architecture, the culture's great as well, but just an amazing place to be, and there's some great things happening.
It always felt like it, to be honest, because when we first started going there, the Manchester thing had just, had blossomed and was still in bloom, really. And, it's the actual kind of, it's not the psychogeography of the place. It's the actual look of the places. They've just changed, whether it be Birmingham, whether it be Manchester, whether it be Cardiff. Everything has changed, and that's a privilege for us to actually just go around and just have these memories, and sit them alongside the present day kind of like versions of the cities we see in today.
Yeah, and you guys, you mentioned Oasis. You were quite inspired by the Manchester music scene, weren't you, back in the day?
I think we felt slightly in opposition to it, but also we realized we loved the records. Again, it was a strange, conflicted thing, you know. It's kind of, yeah, especially the Mondays and the Roses, and then it was Interstellar. You know, there was lots of bands like that where we loved the records, but we couldn't quite line it up with our beliefs, kind of thing,
Yeah.
because we weren't kind of a post rave band, we weren't a drugs band, and kind of like, and we were kind of slightly more punk orientated, obviously. So kind of I remember listening to like the first Stone Roses album and just kind of learning how to play all the songs on guitar. And then listen to Bummed, and it was amazing, and 24 Hour Part of People, and like Interstellar, that single, The Storm,
Yeah.
Your Good Selves, kind of like, it was just, there were so many. I was only again yesterday talking about how many amazing guitarists that come out of Manchester, whether it be Vinnie Riley, whether it be Johnny Marr, whether it be, Billy Duffy, it's just amazing.
Yeah, it's an incredible place for that. It's very prolific.
It is. I mean, it is the main guitar hero city of Britain. Unfortunately, I wish we'd lay claim to it in Wales, but it's not the case.
Well, why don't you move up here? Get up here. Come and live with us. You're a brilliant guitarist, and you're up there alongside all those guys.
You've gone too far. You've gone too far now.
Don't underrate yourself. I think people know you're a great frontman. They know that the Manics are an amazing band, but I think sometimes you don't get the credit you deserve as a brilliant guitarist as well.
I don't know. I mean, kind of like I'm not interested in anything like legacies or kind of like or credit. But I think sometimes some people think I lack a bit of taste on the guitar because I like my metal as well.
Absolutely.
I kind of like I was a bit of a metal kid when I was young too, so I'm not shy of a solo. Whereas we all know within the indie fraternity, solos are very much looked down on sometimes.
Well, it brings me nicely to what I was going to talk to you about. One of the things that's coming up, you're doing some gigs with some of your heroes, Guns N' Roses, aren't you, across Europe?
We certainly are, yes. I can see what the press release is going to be already. Manic Street Preachers wanted to sell more records than Guns N' Roses, but instead they end up supporting them on their lap of honour. It's going to be amazing, it will be.
Yeah, and they're one of the bands. They were a big inspiration on you guys, weren't they, back in the day? Not just all the indie stuff, but what Guns N' Roses did.
Oh, it was. I mean, Appetite for Destruction, I think it's 1987. So it was a weird time, I'd come out... I come out of being a massive Tamla fan, a massive Frank Sinatra fan, massive punk fan, and then a massive C86 indie fan, and I'd taken all these things in, and then Guns N' Roses and Public Enemy came along, and I just latched onto those two bands. I was listening to Take a Nation of Millions by Public Enemy and Appetite for Destruction, by Guns N' Roses. And they were just my two favourite records for like 2 years. Yeah. And I think, the important thing to remember about Guns N' Roses is, you might look back on it and think they were just hair metal, but they weren't. They put the rock back into roll. As Marquis Smith said, there's too much rock around these days and not enough roll. And and Guns N' Roses put the roll back into rock. They did, they had that kind of Stones-esque ethic of Izzy Stradlin and Slash, of like the Keith and Ronnie kind of thing. There was a lot of kind of like traditional rock and roll feel to what they did, and just latched onto it. And some of the lyrics are great. Lyrics to songs like Welcome to the Jungle and Paradise City actually just got some amazing lines in it.
Yeah, you can see a direct bloodline between what they did and what you've done since. So
I think what people don't get about bands sometimes is if you get 5 disparate characters like that, and the chemistry is perfect just for one record, you can't make it up with an algorithm. You can't make it in a computer. It just happens. Because it didn't last for long. That band was ready to kind of like to self-combust, very quickly. But for one record, the chemistry was perfect.
And so it's new album then, Resistance is Futile. So about the title first of all. You're not finally giving up the battle, are you? The world needs bands like you more than ever. You're not telling us to stop fighting here, are you, James?
No, I don't know. I mean, kind of... I think we live in more intractable times when it comes to trying to digest culture or politics or just even news. This album's released post-referendum, post-Trump election, post-general election, post a lot of things. And I think it's when you try to write, say, what you might broadly call a political song in the early 90s, it was easy to define yourself by what knowing you were against. Yeah, it's much harder now. It's much harder. We saw, the left and the centre left and wherever, we saw it self-combust during the referendum campaign. So it's much harder to hit your targets now because everything is much more confused. Everything is much more intractable. And, you have the absolute kind of the absolute ferocious march of progress, stroke, digital progress. It's really hard to actually sit there and say that everything is the same, because everything is different now, I think.
Yeah.
So first you got to deal with that, and you've got to kind of accept it. But there's a double-edged meaning to it as well. I think we sat down to write the record, and we knew that we weren't. This is not us writing in the early 90s. This is us in 2017, 16, and 18 when it's released, And we were just thinking, well, do people listen to albums anymore? Do they listen to them the way that you used to listen to them from the first track to the last track? Do people fall in love with track 7 after 20 listens anymore,
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to think that way. So the MO for doing the album was, let's just try and treat, most of it like a collection of singles.
Yeah.
If people are not listening to albums like they used to, then perhaps the only way to actually just go headlong into an album is treat every track as a single. You know. So there was a double-edged kiss off to Resistance is Futile. Hopefully, it still is to us, but we shall see.
I knew the answer to the question. You'll never give up spreading those great messages, and you do it so well. In fact, one of the things I've always loved about the Manics is that I hear references in your songs to things that I know little about or I know nothing about, and I go away and I learn about them. I didn't even know who Kevin Carter was when you brought that out. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I didn't either, so you see,
But it's a great thing, isn't it? You know what it reminds me of? It's like when The Clash did it with me, because I was 17 when I first started going watching The Clash, and they'd be singing about things. I think, oh, what's that? I'll go and read about that. I'll go and learn about that. And before that, David Bowie was brilliant at it in the early 70s. He'd be singing about things that I'd never heard of, or
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. So you say with The Clash, kind of obviously, talking about Lorca, I discovered who Lorca was through a Clash song and went and found out about his plays, and then then I remember reading a Matt Johnson interview in The Enemy. And he was carrying a book in his pocket called Nausea by Jean-Paul Sartre. Yeah. So I went and bought that book and read it. Yeah. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. When I was reading The Enemy, Sounds, Melody Maker, Select, wherever it was, jamming, all these things that people want to remember, I was taking other people's references and going to learn about them, and that's just the way it was. So actually being in the Manic sometimes, especially in the past, was like that. When Richie gave me the lyric Kevin Carter, I had to ask who Kevin Carter was. And then, of course, we had common ground. Sometimes he'd give me a Arthur Rimbaud kind of like a reference, and I'd know who that was. Yeah. He'd give me a Deutsche Wesky like reference, I'd know who it was. Yeah. But then, the Holy Bible was full of references in those lyrics, which sometimes I had to ask what it was. Yeah. So I'm in the same position as you. Being in the Manics has taught me a lot too. Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful things about music, isn't it? Because you get these idols whose music you love the way they dress, you love the way they sound and sing, and then suddenly there's an element of education as well, because you listen to these people and tune into it. In fact, the new single, I didn't know much about the relationship between Dylan Thomas and his wife Caitlin until I heard your new track, Dylan and Caitlin. I've read about it and I've learned because of that record, and it's a fascinating song. That it's written from the point of view of Dylan and his wife, isn't it? Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a true duet, and it's kind of an awkward place to write a song from, really, because it depends which way you look at it. But the way I look at it, between Dylan and Caitlin, it was a co-abusive relationship. Yeah. Nobody seemed to have kind of like, it really was a co-abusive relationship in an emotional sense, and sometimes perhaps in a physical sense, I don't know. Yeah. It was an alcohol stained relationship. It was an emotional stained relationship. Yeah. But sometimes you come to the conclusion that that's what some people need to function at a certain level. They need that drama in their lives. And they definitely both fed off it. Now, I'm not saying it was right or wrong, but that seemed the case for a long time, that they both needed that heightened sense of drama to operate at a certain level. Yeah. And it definitely fed, Dylan's, poetry, and it fed some of Caitlin's work too. It's an awkward stance to write a song from, but kind of like it kind of works, really, I think. Yeah, in a lot of ways, they were like that generation Sid and Nancy, weren't they? Good grief. I don't know. But no, it's a beautiful song. I love it. When I read the lyrics, as without the music, just as a poem, it's just a beautiful thing. So well done on that one. What about what have you been doing between albums? And have you had any downtime yet or not? No, I mean, we had the small drama of having to move studios. So again, the endless march of progress rendered our studio in Cardiff gone, obsolete. Really? Of course, our old studio in Cardiff was replaced by flats. Right. Everybody would have guessed that in one, I think. Yeah. But so we had to mothball the studio, which took us a month. and then we had to go and find a place where we could build a new studio. So that kind of took a year,
Right.
and that stopped us in our tracks because we'd already started this record, and that. I think, we're the kind of band, we're all, well, I'm 49 now, and, I was 47 and 48 when we were dealing with closing the old studio up.
Yeah.
And Sean and Nick have got kids. Obviously, we're all the same age. And, we are the kind of band that need a clubhouse to retreat to.
Yeah.
We need days where nothing happens. We need days where if you're trying to record, then sometimes it's just not very good. We're not the kind of band that can go and hire a studio and clock watch and go, oh, Jesus Christ, it's 6 o'clock and we haven't got anything yet. We can't operate like that anymore. And we can't waste money like that. So, the album got stopped for a year because of having tried to build a studio somewhere else. And that's just 21st century living, isn't it? You know, kind of everybody gets stopped by progress at some point.
Well, it's good that you're back in action, and it's just always great to see you doing such great work, because you never seem to hit a lull. You just keep coming up with this amazing music that's always got something great to say, and you deliver it with great passion. So, James Dean Bradfield, thanks again for joining me today. Give me love to the boys as well when you see them, will you?
Oh, cheers, Clint, mate. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.